online drama when it comes to streamers has to either be one of the funniest or one of the most diabolical things that you've ever seen. And there's really no in between, you know? It's either they're getting canceled for something that makes absolutely zero sense, or they're basically just getting canceled because they're an actual terrible person. And today we're going to be talking about the OG of YouTube, Nadeshot himself. He used to be Optical Nadeshot, now is 100 Thieves Nadeshot. And if you don't know who Nadeshot is, basically he is this old Call of Duty pro who was in Optical, essentially, and or Optic, sorry, not Optical, but he was in Optic. He played for a while. He helped win some of their tournaments, and he's overall a pretty decent Call of Duty player, like in today's standards, I guess you would say. And over time, Nadeshot went through a long period where he kind of flopped for a bit, you know? So he went from being a COD pro to basically living on his own in LA, making vlogs where, I mean, this was like super depressed Nadeshot series, essentially. Like every single video was like him talking about how it was hard for him to get out of bed, how it was hard for him to go do day to day things, but he would still eventually get a video out and get a vlog out. And then over time, he basically he kind of went away from those daily vlogs because partially because he was trying to advance his life a little bit more, but at the same time he was he was dealing with a lot of mental stuff too. I think he like broke up with his girlfriend. He was living by himself, and he basically had to figure out how to pay rent essentially because he was broke. Like he was living a decent life, but LA is expensive, and after a lot of times it added up, especially when he aren't really posting content, I guess you could say. And after a little bit of time, this led to the creation of what we know now is 100 Thieves, which is right now one of the singular best pro teams to basically touch the pro scene in gaming. They play like League of Legends. I think they might have like a Siege team. I don't know all their teams. I don't follow 100 Thieves like very actively, but I know they're pretty good. They usually place in like top 10, like minimum. And Nadeshot used to be very in tune. Not only was he the owner, but he was the CEO at one point in time. So he was very in tune with it. He would go talk to the guys. He was a part of the recruitment. He would make sure they're practicing. He was part of their contracts. He was a big part of it. And after a while, he basically ended up getting a new girlfriend and eventually started switching more over to streaming. He wanted to go back to streaming because it's what he loved doing, you know? Nadeshot, at the end of the day, has talked about this multiple times that he basically loves content creation as a whole, and he just wanted to go back to streaming, playing video games, and like just having a good time, especially after being a company owner for years and not really touching video games besides here or there. So he stepped down as CEO, but he still owns 100 Thieves, obviously. But he no longer has anything to do with it. I guess the best way to put it is like Mark Cuban, how Mark Cuban owned the Mavericks, like completely owned the Mavericks. It's like, yes, he owned them, but he had no say over who was going to be on the team. He had no say over how they would practice. He had no say over like anything. He just owned the team and basically funded it, and like that was it. And basically now that's kind of the situation that Nadeshot is in. So why am I talking about this today? Well, Nadeshot is fighting some backlash, and with this backlash, obviously, it's one of those kind of cringe dramas that people I don't really think look too deeply into, and they just kind of hop on to essentially be a bandwagon. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is him basically gambling, essentially. So Nadeshot has been getting a lot of backlash over the years because of gambling, just in general. But in the most recent thing, he has been getting a lot more backlash because he essentially had a sponsored gambling stream. Now, short term sponsored gambling stream, you're going to go to a gambling site, they're probably going to give you a little bit of money, and you basically get to gamble for free. And then if you get addicted, you get to spend your own money. That's the short term. So, and obviously people are outraged about this. A lot of people think that gambling streams are the equivalent to selling your soul, or selling your underwear, I guess. And it's a little bit weird how passionate people get about gambling streams. Like, I mean, to a level of like, they will disown you and put a curse on your entire family for doing a gambling stream. And he does these a lot. And I think that's the weird thing about the backlash behind the gambling is Nadeshot has done this for years. He's talked about doing sports betting. He's talked about betting on games. I mean, I think it was a month or two ago. He literally dropped like 30K on CS:GO cases, which I know Oni Pixel. I love Oni Pixel. Don't get me wrong. It's a hobby. Don't get me wrong. It is a pretty a lucrative hobby, I should say, but it's still gambling at the end of the day. You're 100%. You're literally spinning a loot box hoping to make money, essentially. And some people just do it for the skins or like for the love of the game, but I think like Oni Pixel leans more towards that. But there is a level of it is addictive and it is gambling at a certain point. So I think that like overall, it's a little weird to be like mad at him for doing like a sponsored gambling stream, especially when like bro is just trying to be a streamer and he gambles a lot on stream as it is, but now all of a sudden we're mad because he's just getting paid to gamble. Like, okay, we're just like touch and go with the lines. But this backlash does make a little bit of sense to me, and I am glad that he did address this for itself. So basically, he got sponsored to do a gambling stream, and this happened at the exact same time that 100 Thieves basically announced that they were going to be laying people off for various reasons, whether they're just like letting them go because they're not needed anymore, or maybe because they can't afford them anymore, essentially. And essentially people got he got backlash for this because people were angry that how dare him basically get paid like free money essentially to go and gamble while his company is essentially firing people and getting rid of people's jobs. And he released a 6-minute video and he posted it on Twitter where, to summarize, he basically goes in and he says, guys, I don't have anything to do with 100 Thieves. Outside of it being my company that I own, I don't have a say. I don't know who's on the teams. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know anything. I'm just getting a salary for it, and I might have like a little bit of pull here and there, but like they're not telling me any executive decisions that they are currently making, which makes sense. That's literally how ownership works. Going back to the Mark Cuban thing, with the Mavericks, if they were going to let a player go, they're probably not going to tell Mark Cuban unless that's like Mark Cuban's boy or something like that. They just aren't, because that's just not how companies work in general. So I do think it is a little bit wacky at the end of the day to give Nate, I guess what you could say is a lot of shade, um, for like basically no reason. And it feels like a lot of the people that are throwing shade are either people who don't understand how ownership of a company works, or are people that in general don't understand that he gambles on a lot of streams. So they're either mad that he's gambling for money, which he specifically is saying that he is getting paid to gamble, or they are mad because of nothing. Yeah. So it's always interesting drama, and I think Nadeshot, like right now, he's one of the best streamers out there. He's up there with Phase Adapt. I'm not even gonna lie. Phase Adapt, his second coming, or I guess his third coming of Phase Adapt, bro is hilarious. You know, and I think Phase Adapt is probably like really funny, and Nadeshot's really funny too. But I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding where these streamers are like pandering or basically trying to put themselves out there to kids. No, they're not. Like, yeah, kids do watch their content, and I think that's something that they can keep in mind as a overall. But these streamers, especially like Nadeshot, dude gambles on almost every single stream, whether that's in a CS:GO case or it's on a actual gambling site. He also makes like a little bit of dark humor. There's also like explicit jokes too, like NSFW jokes. So it's weird to me to have these complaints with like, oh well, like kids look up to you and everything. Yeah, kids do look up to him, but it's the same thing as if you're saying, well, kids technically look up to Aiden Ross. It's like, I mean, yeah, but like they probably shouldn't be watching him unless like the parents are okay with it. And this kind of goes back to a couple days ago with our Roblox video where like, people are trying to add this weird age verification to Roblox and it's like dude, that stuff isn't going to work because the kids who want to be on an 18 plus stream, an 18 plus game, an 18 plus whatever are just going to be there. They just make an account for 18 plus. I mean, most of these streams, when you click on them, they literally will have a notification if your account isn't 18 plus. It'll be like, this is a 18 plus stream. Are you sure you want to watch? Yes or no? And if you click yes, then you agree that you're watching an 18 plus stream. But I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it. Is like it's a little bit wacky to get mad at streamers for what they do on a day to day basis. After like one thing, it's like they can gamble every single day. They can say explicit jokes every single day, but the second they're getting paid for it, whoa, 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 that's way too far. Now, I would say there is like a level of this. This is the last thing I'll say before we kind of hop out of here. So there is 100% a level to this where you go in and you've never gambled on stream. You're 100% kid friendly, and you just start like ripping CS:GO cases like randomly one day. Like imagine like a Roblox streamer, it just like gets paid to go on like Rain Bet or something like that, and they're just getting paid thousands of dollars, and like that's different. They actually are promoting their channel towards kids. Their channel is meant for kids. But you're taking someone like Nadeshot or Adapt or well, Adapt doesn't do this, but like Nadeshot or XQC or Aiden Ross or something like that. You're basically saying, hey, I know your channel is 18 plus, but how dare you stick to 18 plus content? Because you're clearly promoting towards kids. It's like just because kids watch you doesn't mean you're promoting towards kids. Just my personal opinion. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And besides that, have a wonderful night. Peace.